You want control. Don't lie to yourself. Every man does. It's the pulse behind your ambition, the itch in your chest when someone talks down to you, the fire that won't let you sleep when another man holds authority over your life. We dress it up with polite words, discipline, stability, leadership, but the truth is raw. You crave dominance because without it, you feel small. Machiavelli knew this centuries ago. He didn't write for the weak, he wrote for rulers, for those who understood that survival depends on grasping power with cold hands. But here's the paradox: the tighter you cling, the more it slips away. Control is addictive. It whispers security into your ear, like a lover promising loyalty. And like a lover, it betrays you the moment you look away. The masses chase illusions of control, jobs, routines, titles, reputations. They cling to these chains and call it safety. But you are here because you want more. You're here because you sense that power is not given, it is seized, and if you don't master control, it will master you. This is not philosophy for classrooms, this is war strategy for life. Every conversation, every relationship, every decision is a battlefield, and the man who hesitates loses. You are about to learn why letting go terrifies men, why clinging destroys them, and why mastering the balance is the only way to become untouchable. So listen closely. This isn't motivation. This is the knife in the dark, the lesson they don't want you to hear. Lesson number 2. The illusion of safety. Men cling to control because they believe it makes them safe. They build routines, habits, rituals, thinking these fragile walls can shield them from chaos. They mistake predictability for strength. But what happens the moment reality breaks their pattern? Panic, fear, collapse. The mind scrambles because it was never prepared for uncertainty. That is the disease of false control, the illusion of safety. Machiavelli wrote that fortune is like a woman, wild, untamed, always shifting. The man who believes she can be domesticated will be destroyed by her storms. Look around you. The worker who clings to his job title, believing it defines him. The man who obsesses over his partner's loyalty, thinking it guarantees his worth. The ruler who trusts his people's love more than their fear. All of them are weak. All of them are prey. Because safety is never real. It is a mask, a trick to sedate the masses. Power lies in facing uncertainty without trembling. The truth is brutal. No system, no relationship, no plan can fully protect you. The only shield is your own discipline, your own capacity to adapt. The weak demand comfort. The strong sharpen themselves in discomfort. And when chaos hits, the strong don't cling. They strike. You are not here to be comforted. You are here to strip away illusions, to see that safety is nothing but a drug for the fragile. If you can let go of that drug, if you can stare into the abyss without blinking, then you will begin to understand what it means to hold real power. Lesson number 3. Machiavelli's warning. Machiavelli was not a dreamer. He was not interested in morality, in hope, in comfort. He studied rulers like a surgeon studies corpses. He cut open the body of power and revealed its organs, its weaknesses, its veins of corruption. His warning was clear. A ruler who trusts appearances is a ruler who walks into his own grave. Control is not about keeping everything stable, it is about expecting instability and exploiting it. He saw kings fall because they wanted to be loved. He saw empires crumble because leaders believed safety was permanent. And he wrote one of the coldest truths in history. It is better to be feared than loved, because fear holds when love falters. Think about that. How many men have you seen lose everything because they relied on love, loyalty, or fairness? They are forgotten because they mistook illusions for strength. Machiavelli warns us, never confuse comfort with control, never confuse affection with authority, never confuse hope with strategy. You must build power on foundations that cannot be swayed by emotion. That means leverage, fear, respect, and most of all, discipline. He teaches that control is not in the hands of the masses, not in the shifting winds of fortune, but in the man who calculates without mercy, the man who knows people are fickle, selfish, and cowardly, and uses that knowledge like a blade. So listen, if you want to rise above mediocrity, abandon the fantasy that others will protect you. Take Machiavelli's lesson for what it is, a map through the shadows. a warning carved in blood. Power belongs only to those who understand its cost and its cold reality. Lesson number 4, the psychology of letting go. Control is not just about power over others. It begins with power over yourself. And this is where most men fail. They want to command armies, but they cannot command their own impulses. They want to dominate business, but they are slaves to distraction, pleasure, validation. This is the psychology of letting go. Understanding that control is a test, not a guarantee. To cling desperately is weakness. To let go strategically is strength. The difference is razor thin, and it separates predators from prey. When you fear losing control, you are already chained. The world can smell your desperation. They will test you, provoke you, bait you. And when you react emotionally, you surrender your power. But when you detach, when you hold your composure in fire, suddenly you become untouchable. Dark psychology teaches us that people will always push boundaries. They will betray, manipulate, exploit. But stoic power comes from indifference, the ability to watch betrayal and remain calm, the discipline to see manipulation and not flinch, the coldness to use it all to your advantage. That is what letting go truly means, not weakness, but refusing to be ruled by fear. Machiavelli wrote that fortune favors the bold, but boldness without composure is suicide. The man who commands himself cannot be broken. So, you must ask yourself, do you control your mind, or does it control you? Until you master this, you will never master others. Let go of fear, let go of desperation, hold only to discipline, and you will begin to taste what real power feels like. Lesson number 5. The predator versus the prey. The world is divided into two kinds of men, predators and prey. There is no middle ground, no third option, no safe place to hide. Prey live for comfort, predators live for conquest. Prey cling to illusions, predators carve reality with their own hands. Prey look for permission, predators take what is theirs. Machiavelli understood this division clearly. Power is not negotiated, it is seized. And if you hesitate, if you flinch, if you allow fear to dictate your choices, you are prey. Think about it. The man who constantly worries about approval, who bends under social pressure, who hides his hunger behind fake humility, he is already marked for consumption. You can smell weakness in him, the same way lions smell the blood of the wounded. But the predator is calm, calculated, and merciless. He doesn't beg for respect, he commands it. He doesn't obsess over fairness, he bends the game in his favor. He doesn't lose sleep over betrayal, he expects it, uses it, and grows sharper because of it. This is not cruelty for cruelty's sake, it is survival. The predator has mastered the art of control, not by clinging, but by sharpening himself into a weapon. Every decision is measured, every move is deliberate, every silence is calculated. And because he fears nothing, nothing controls him. That is why the predator rises while the prey bleeds. Now the question is simple. Which one are you? Which one do you want to become? If you want to rise, you must declare it now. Speak it into existence. Claim your place. I want you to comment a phrase that no one else would dare write. Your phrase of power, your declaration of dominance. Something unique, something cold, something that will remind you that you are not prey. You are predator. Write it now and let the world see the fire behind your words. Lesson number 6. The cold game of power. Power is not a warm embrace. It is not applause. It is not affection. Power is a cold game, a game of leverage, perception, and ruthlessness. The world pretends otherwise because weakness prefers pretty lies, but Machiavelli stripped the mask away. He wrote the truth others feared. Men are ungrateful, fickle, cowardly, deceitful. They will serve you when it benefits them and abandon you when it doesn't. That is the raw psychology of mankind. Love is fragile, loyalty is conditional, morality is negotiable, which is why he said, it is better to be feared than loved. Fear does not waver like love. Fear does not require constant feeding. Fear roots itself deep in the spine and paralyzes betrayal before it begins. This is why kings built thrones on terror, why rulers staged executions publicly, why generals broke their enemies with fire before offering peace. Because love inspires hope, but fear guarantees obedience. And yet, fear is not mindless cruelty. It is controlled cruelty, strategic cruelty. The cold game of power is not about rage, but about precision. It is about deciding exactly when to show teeth, exactly when to draw blood, exactly when to remind the world that you are not to be crossed. Too much softness breeds contempt. Too much kindness breeds rebellion. But measured fear, delivered like a scalpel, creates stability. That is the paradox. People claim they want freedom, but they secretly crave structure. They despise control, yet they kneel to the man who wields it with iron. And that man cannot afford to play the game emotionally. He cannot beg for love, cannot weep for loyalty, cannot collapse when people turn against him. He must stand cold, detached, relentless. When they mock, he stays silent. When they betray, he calculates. When they resist, he crushes. Power is never given to the man who wishes to be loved. It is surrendered to the man who dares to be feared. Understand this, and you begin to see the game as it truly is. Refuse it, and you remain a pawn, discarded when convenient. The question is not whether the game is cold. The question is whether you are willing to be colder. Lesson number 7, the price of control. Control has a cost. Every man wants it, but very few are willing to pay. They speak of power as if it's some reward for ambition, some prize handed out to those who dream loud enough. But power is not gifted. It is purchased in blood, in silence, in sacrifice. The weak think they can have it all: control and comfort, dominance and popularity, respect and approval. They want to be loved like saints while ruling like kings. That is impossible. Machiavelli warned that you cannot chase both paths. To be loved is fragile, to be feared is reliable. But to be feared, you must accept the loneliness that comes with it. That is the first price. You will be misunderstood. You will be hated. People will whisper your name with venom even as they obey your commands. They will smile in your presence and curse in your absence. If you are weak, their hatred will break you. If you are strong, their hatred will only sharpen you. The second price is trust, or rather, the death of it. To control, you must accept that no man's loyalty is absolute. Alliances shift, promises rot, affection fades. You cannot afford blind faith in anyone, not even those closest to you. Every ally must be tested, every friend must be watched, every betrayal must be expected. The third price is compassion, not its absence, but its control. You cannot let pity rule your hand. Mercy must be calculated, not emotional. When you show kindness, it must serve your strategy, not your heart. True control demands that you rise above the pull of empathy when it weakens you. And the fourth price, the heaviest, is isolation. The higher you climb, the fewer equals you will have. The throne is not crowded. It is barren. The man in command eats alone, sleeps with one eye open, trusts no whisper, fears no silence. This isolation is not weakness. It is the shield that prevents you from being poisoned by familiarity. Understand this: every inch of control you gain costs you something. The weak refuse the cost and remain subjects. The strong pay it willingly and become rulers. Dark psychology teaches that the human mind clings to comfort, craves affection, seeks approval, but the Machiavellian mind rejects these cravings. It knows they are traps. Comfort makes you slow, affection makes you blind, approval makes you dependent. If you want true control, you must sever these chains one by one. You must embrace discomfort as training, transform loneliness into clarity, turn suspicion into discipline. Only then can you wield power without shaking. Only then can you control others without being controlled yourself. The price is steep, but what is the alternative? To live as prey? To live begging for safety, begging for love, begging for scraps of influence that vanish when tested? Number. Better to pay the price and stand untouchable than to remain comfortable and be devoured. The question is not whether control costs too much. The question is whether you have the spine to pay for it without hesitation. Lesson number 8, becoming untouchable. To become untouchable, you must first strip away everything that makes you fragile. This is not a path for the soft-hearted or the easily distracted. It is a path of fire, of cutting away illusions until only steel remains. Most men build their lives on sand. They rely on money they didn't earn, on relationships they can't control, on approval from people who would abandon them at the first sign of weakness. That is why they are disposable. That is why they never rise. To become untouchable, you must build on bedrock, on yourself, your discipline, your ruthless clarity. You must train your mind until chaos feels like calm water, until betrayal feels like a predictable ritual, until pain feels like fuel. Machiavelli taught that fortune favors the bold, but boldness without mastery is suicide. True boldness comes from control, and control begins with silence. Learn to speak less and listen more. Learn to reveal nothing while absorbing everything. People cannot attack what they cannot see. When you are silent, you are unpredictable. When you are unpredictable, you are dangerous. Next comes discipline. Control your body, your habits, your impulses. The man who cannot say no to his own weakness will always bow to another man's strength. While others waste their energy on distractions, you sharpen yourself like a blade. You rise earlier, you work longer, you think deeper. You detach from the need for approval, the need for constant stimulation, the need to feel good at all times. Untouchable men do not chase pleasure, they weaponize it. They use it to reward themselves after conquest, never before. And finally, you must cultivate presence, the aura of inevitability that makes others bend without a word. This presence comes from consistency, from knowing who you are and never flinching. People respect a man who cannot be shaken, who does not react wildly, who holds his ground even under fire. That is the energy of kings, of predators, of rulers. It is not about theatrics, it is about controlled force, always restrained, always ready. And now I want you to take this moment and claim your transformation. Comment below a phrase that belongs only to you, your mantra of untouchability, your declaration of power. Something that tells the world you are no longer prey, no longer fragile, no longer bound by illusions. Write it as if it were carved into stone. Say it as if it will echo beyond your lifetime. Comment it now, and remember, words shape destiny, but only for those who dare to own them. Lesson number 9. Transcending fear. Fear is the oldest chain forged around the human spirit. It is the whisper in your mind that tells you to hesitate, to obey, to retreat. It is the invisible leash that keeps men crawling when they were built to stand tall. Fear is what separates rulers from the ruled, predators from prey, masters from servants. And yet, fear itself is not the enemy. It is a weapon. Machiavelli understood this. He saw fear not as something to be destroyed, but as something to be mastered. A ruler who commands fear in others holds power, but a man who transcends fear within himself becomes unstoppable. Look around you. Men governed by fear at every turn. Fear of losing money, fear of rejection, fear of failure, fear of death. They live in constant surrender, disguising their cowardice as prudence, calling it caution, pretending it is wisdom. But true wisdom is colder. True wisdom looks fear in the eyes and smirks because it knows fear is nothing but energy, raw energy waiting to be directed. The man who bows to fear is enslaved by it. The man who transcends fear bends it into his weapon. How? By facing it deliberately, by stripping it of its disguise, by refusing to flinch. When betrayal comes, the weak collapse. The strong expected it, prepared for it, and use it to prune their circle. When loss strikes, the weak cry and beg for comfort. The strong absorb the blow, learn its lesson, and rise sharper. When death whispers in the dark, the weak shrink in dread. The strong nod and march forward, knowing mortality makes every move more urgent, more ruthless, more powerful. Fear is the forge, and you are the iron. If you do not step into the fire, you will remain brittle. But if you enter willingly, embrace the flames, and let them burn away weakness, you emerge unbreakable. Stoics taught detachment as a shield, Machiavelli taught fear as a tool, and dark psychology shows us the truth. People are controlled by their terror, their insecurities, their nightmares. If you can rise above your own, you become untouchable because nothing can be used against you. Think about it. How do manipulators control the masses? They threaten security. They manipulate fear of loss. They whisper about dangers that may never come. They trap men with illusions of risk. But when you no longer fear loss, you cannot be bribed. When you no longer fear betrayal, you cannot be deceived. When you no longer fear death, You cannot be intimidated. That is the highest level of control, when fear has no chains left on you. Imagine how differently you would move if you lived without fear. Every conversation would shift. Your tone would be colder, calmer, commanding. Every negotiation would bend toward you because you would never appear desperate. Every rival would hesitate before challenging you because they could not detect weakness. And that presence, that aura of untouchability, would grow with every test you endured. Do not confuse this with recklessness. To transcend fear is not to act blindly. It is to act with clarity, free from hesitation. The weak hesitate because they fear outcomes. The strong decide because they accept outcomes, whether victory or failure, whether love or loss, whether life or death. The strong see all results as steps forward. That is transcendence. That is liberation. The world will always attempt to shackle you again. Society thrives on fear. Leaders need your obedience. Systems need your compliance. Relationships feed on your insecurity. They will all whisper that safety lies in surrender. But you know better now. Safety is an illusion, fear is a leash, and power belongs only to the man who tears it off his neck. This is your moment to step across the line, to declare yourself no longer prey to the oldest chain in history. I want you to write it below, your phrase of power, your declaration of fearlessness, not something generic, something unique, something that slices through your old identity and leaves nothing but steel. Carve it into the comments. Prove to yourself and the world that you are done living in chains. Say it, own it, and live it. A phrase that only you could create, a weapon forged in words. Comment it now, because from this moment forward, fear is no longer your master. You are. Lesson number 10, the final lesson. This is the moment where everything converges, where all the threads of power, philosophy, and psychology twist into a single blade aimed at your chest. Do not mistake this for a conclusion. It is an initiation. Because you have walked through fire in these words, dissecting illusions, confronting shadows, standing before the mirror of Machiavelli and the cold truths of human nature. You have been told that control is addictive, that safety is an illusion, that rulers fall when they mistake affection for authority, that fear can enslave or liberate depending on how you wield it. You have learned that the world is divided into predators and prey, that the cold game of power is played without sentiment, that the price of control is steep but necessary, that becoming untouchable requires sacrifice, and that transcending fear makes you unstoppable. Now, the final lesson demands not only understanding but transformation. Power is not a concept, it is a practice. It is lived every second, breathed every moment, sharpened every day. And the truth most men never face is that the battle for power is not external, it is internal. The world has no obligation to hand you authority. Men will not respect you out of kindness. Systems will not reward you for playing fair. The game is rigged against the weak, but it is vulnerable to the ruthless. That is why Machiavelli's writings remain timeless, because he refused the comfort of lies. He said plainly that men are selfish, deceitful, and cowardly. He said plainly that love fades, loyalty shifts, morality bends under pressure. And yet, most men still live as if these were exceptions, as if humanity's true nature will somehow treat them kindly. You will not be one of them. You cannot afford to be. You must look at humanity with cold eyes, strip away the illusions, and build your strategy on what is, not on what you wish it to be. That is the core of the final lesson. The man who sees reality clearly and acts decisively will always rule over the man who clings to fantasy. Control is never about manipulating the world into perfection. It is about mastering yourself until no imperfection can bend you. Control is not about silencing chaos. It is about standing so firm in the middle of chaos that you bend it toward your will. And that mastery comes only through discipline. Discipline that slices deeper than mere routines or habits. Discipline of thought, discipline of speech, discipline of reaction. You cannot let every insult provoke you, every setback shatter you, every betrayal soften you. If you are moved like a leaf in the wind by every gust, you are not a ruler, you are a toy. And toys break. A ruler stands still. A ruler waits. A ruler chooses his moments with surgical precision. That is why the untouchable man is feared, not because he rages, but because he doesn't need to. His silence unsettles more than the noise of weaker men. His restraint radiates more power than their chaos. But this final lesson goes deeper than restraint. It demands that you embrace isolation. The climb to control narrows the higher you go until there is no crowd, no chorus of approval, no warm embrace waiting at the top. There is only you, the throne, and the shadows whispering below. That is the reality kings have always faced. That is the reality rulers must accept. Weak men crumble in that silence. Strong men thrive in it because solitude sharpens them like nothing else. In solitude, you hear your own mind without distortion. In solitude, you make decisions unclouded by the need to please. In solitude, you stop craving affirmation, and in that moment, you become untouchable. The final lesson also demands you sacrifice the comfort of compassion when it weakens you. Do not misunderstand, compassion has its place, but the ruler cannot be ruled by it. When mercy serves strategy, give it. When mercy weakens strategy, cut it away. Power is built not on softness, but on steel. The world will test you with pleas, with tears, with manipulation dressed as morality. If you bend every time, you are not ruling, you are serving. Machiavelli wrote that cruelty, when well used, can be more merciful than misplaced kindness. That is not philosophy, it is fact. A ruler who avoids necessary harshness in fear of being judged will lose control, and his people will suffer more from the chaos that follows than they ever would from his cold precision. This is why you must detach from guilt, detach from pity when it clouds judgment, detach from the childish need to be liked. Power is not about being liked, it is about being respected, obeyed, remembered. And sometimes the only way to achieve that is to accept being hated. Can you bear the weight of hatred? Can you bear being misunderstood, despised, and envied? Because if you,